Are you bored living a mediocre life? We were too, and we know how to change that. Each week, we'll leave our comfort zones to explore a new topic, then step onto our soapboxes, a safe space to sound off on our latest adventure. Come explore with us. All opinions are welcome. This is a mindset. This is a lifestyle. This is Siren Soapbox.
Hello, fellow explorers. Welcome to Siren Soapbox. Thank you for diving in and exploring with us. We're on a mission to explore beyond comfort zones because we discovered that is where meaningful growth and lasting happiness can be found. Exploration can take place anywhere, no matter your location or situation, and we made exploring even easier. Check out our pre-dive episode number 114 and the description for links on how to follow along on all of our explorations in February. So many ways to explore. Pick one today and experience life outside your comfort zone. Don't know where to start? Discovering what type of explorer you are will help you in taking that first small step in navigating your way out of your comfort zone. Take the quiz at sirensoapbox.com to find out. Language is everywhere. Here are some statistics about language according to Linguina? Sure. L-I-N-G-U-A links.com. Language is thought to have been around since 100,000 BC, although according to worldhistory.org, it's 50,000 BC, with written language emerging around 3000 BC. Which means we waited anywhere from 96,000 to 46,000 years to actually put language down somewhere physically so that we can refer back to it. All right, back to those stats. There are over 2,700 languages with over 7,000 dialects. 231 dialects are considered to be extinct, with 2,400 in danger of becoming extinct. The language with the most words is English, with 250,000 words. There are over 300 languages spoken in the United States. The Bible is the most translated book, with Pinocchio a close second. Agatha Christie is the most translated author. And learning a second language can make you smarter, which brings us to our episode for today. For over 500, nope, that's way wrong. I can't language today. Over 150 days, the Sirens have been using the app Duolingo. According to their site, with more than 500 million learners, Duolingo is the world's largest collection of language learning data at its fingertips. The Duolingo app launched in 2012 and has since become, wow, I really can't language today. It's become the most popular way to learn a language and one of the most downloaded education apps in the world. As of June 2021, Duolingo offered 23 different languages, 39 of which for English speakers. Let's find out how the Sirens did. But first, if at any time the conversation gets too intense, the safe word is
Mango.
Mango.
First up on our soapbox is Mer.
So you guys will be surprised to hear that this is another new favorite challenge of mine. As of today, I've completed 120 days of learning Italian with Duolingo. I love the streak counting. I think knowing I could lose my daily streak was a good motivator for me to pick it up and complete a lesson nearly every day since we started the challenge. But I really like that each lesson could take as little as 3 minutes. In fact, there were days I would keep my streak alive with only a few minutes to spare. Knowing the lesson would be short and sweet helped keep me motivated to open the app and learn a little something. And although I don't consider myself a competitive person, I do really like the gamification of language learning that Duolingo created. I love getting promoted to new leagues and racking up gems, which I only used to refill streak freezes because one can only have 2 at a time, you see. On the days when I had more time to devote to the learning, I would pull out a little notebook. Oh, I should have grabbed it. I'll grab it tonight. But I pulled out a little notebook and write down the words and the new phrases I was learning. And that helped to reinforce what I was doing on Duolingo. Then I could refer to it later when I needed some help. I learned about Duolingo from a few people at work. My friend Brian, he's been on the podcast. He recently celebrated a 250-day Duolingo streak, which is amazing. But our friend Sean, Sean, by the way, was so genuinely excited for me when I reached a 100-day streak. He today is on day number 1,124 of his learning streak
What?
with Duolingo.
Wow.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
He also recommended that I listen to some conversational podcasts that are spoken in Italian. So that's next on my list. I'll look it up later to let everybody know. But it's just like a little podcast. It'll give you like the weather and some news updates and things like that. And they just have little conversations in Italian. So Sean, he's basically fluent in French now. He has a daily conversation with a person whose first language is in French and they're learning English as their second language. So half of the time they talk to each other, they speak in English, and the other half of the time they speak in French. So it's a good way for both of those people to, you know, keep working on that new skill. Sarah, how did you like Duolingo?
Mi divertí mucho haciendo este reto. So how's that for getting into a challenge? Those who don't know Spanish, I just said that I had a lot of fun doing this challenge, and it's true. I picked Spanish for a few reasons. It's the most commonly spoken language or second language in the US, so it's the most commonly spoken foreign, language in the US, so it seemed like a useful choice. And I did take a year of Spanish in high school, so obviously it would still be pretty fresh. Pause for snarky laughter from the crowd. I had to laugh. I also picked it because my son Ben is currently learning it, so I thought it would be fun to do together. He had actually been doing a Duolingo course, but in Italian, so I was already a little familiar with how it worked. I've had a pretty good experience with the Duolingo app. It's had a couple of updates and upgrades since we started, 149 days ago for me, so it seems like they're working on improving it all the time. I'm thinking perhaps this means that they have experts working in the background, so I'm confident they know what they're doing. I do know that my reading and writing in Spanish has greatly improved, but I tend to skip the questions or lessons where I have to speak because I'm usually at work or in bed early in the morning or at night, and I don't feel comfortable speaking Spanish publicly yet. I'm still having trouble understanding spoken Spanish, but that's because when it's spoken at a regular speed, things get slurred together, so I have trouble picking out the words. Thank goodness for the snail button. When I hit that and the phrase is repeated very slowly, I can usually make it out. Keeping up a streak is a great goal to have, and it certainly kept me at it every day, but sometimes I just bust out a lesson to get it done for the day. The league competitions are much better for getting you to spend a lot of time doing lessons so you can advance to the next league, or at least not get demoted. It was pretty motivating for me when I'd get a notification that someone had knocked me out of the top 3. As to comparing it with other language tutorials, I don't have any experience with anything other than Duolingo, but anytime I would talk about it, folks would comment that there are more sophisticated ones out there that are apparently less phrase-oriented and more like a classroom curriculum. And I wouldn't mind trying a different one for comparison, but right now I'm really enjoying Duolingo. Jess, were you excited about learning a new language?
I was excited about this challenge because I had already thought about learning Hawaiian or Tagalog is one of the common languages spoken in the Philippines. This was my first choice, Tagalog was, and there's a large Filipino population on the island, and a lot of the folks that I work with or that I run into out on the island are either part Filipino or full Filipino, and English is not their first language. So I thought it could be useful. Well, unfortunately, Tagalog is not offered on Duolingo. So that made my decision for me. And let me tell you, Hawaiian is hard, really hard. There are only 12 letters in the Hawaiian alphabet, and 7 of those are consonants. So many of the words are very similar with a lot of vowels, and some of the words are even the same with different definitions, just depending on how you use them in a sentence. For instance, kukui means light, but it also means torch, flame, lamp, and light bulb. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I started lessons how many of the common words and phrases I actually knew just from picking up in my time here, but I'm definitely still a novice. I went through each section and up to level 1, and now I'm working on going through each section again for level 2. I think I did this a little different than the rest of the Sirens, but I'm interested to talk about that in a bit. I'm for sure going to keep going through this challenge until I've completed all of the sections up to all the levels. I'm on a 127-day streak, so I can't lose that. There are not as many sections in Hawaiian as there are for some of the other languages, but I'm determined to finish what there is. Elsie, what language did you pick to learn and why?
Tomé español porque quiero hablar con personas de habla española cuando vivo en Florida. Or in English, I took Spanish because I want to talk with Spanish-speaking people when I live in Florida. And no, I didn't learn all that from the app. I use Google Translate. Although I did know what most of the words are, I probably just can't formulate a coherent sentence using Spanish yet. I could barely do it in English, let's be honest. As of a month ago, my stats were that I spent 8 hours in the app and I learned 339 words. Oh my God, why am I so stats driven? Am I really the competitive explorer? Anywho, my streak was 154 days, which right off the bat, I'm going to say kind of bums me out because the next big milestone is 365 days. And I got to be honest with y'all, that's kind of a lot, although it's not 1,000, which super impressive, Sean. And lately, I found myself going into the app just to do the bare minimum in order to keep my streak. And I feel that I'm not learning as much as I was before, but I am still retaining what I had learned. I do wish that there was a way to customize it because I love the matching game. And some of the other challenges and awards I could do without, and I don't really know what they mean. I did notice today, digging through the app, that there is a guidebook that goes over some of the more textbook type information, which seems like it should be a lot easier to find. Duo, the owl, is totes adorbs, and I like the app overall. I guess all that being said, it was outside my comfort zone to keep up with this every day. I did develop a habit of doing this first thing in the morning when I do Wordle and before I check social media, so that helped. I like the family plan. The free plan gets a little obnoxious with all the ads, but they are helping to teach people a language for free. I would be curious to know how many people become fluent after they do Duolingo. TC, como te feel?
I started out strong on Duolingo. There were some days when I was ready to go to bed and suddenly realized I hadn't done a lesson, so I got my phone out and went to work before I was ready to go to sleep for the night. And Dino had to lay there and listen to me speaking Spanish, so he learned certain words like, I'm tired. I was determined to keep my streak going. I really enjoyed it. The lessons are short and engaging and easy to complete in a short time. I love the way they build and repeat, spiraling the information so that what I already learned stays fresh while I'm working on building new knowledge. While I started out strong, my dedication did eventually fade. While I initially found it easy to find 5 minutes to do a quick lesson, I also think it was more effective if I did more than one lesson. I found that when I completed just one lesson each day, retention went down. And when retention was down, I was less successful and the lessons were less fun. But after I had neglected my Duolingo studies for a month, and the sirens all gave me a hard time, I picked it up for another lesson. And then the sirens were all notified that I picked it up after a month off, and they gave me another hard time. But I quickly realized that I had learned a lot. I retained a lot of the information, and that was really fun to realize. I think that combining a movie in Spanish with English subtitles would have been a really good way to supplement the learning. I was also tempted to buy a book written in Spanish to see if I could read it. I found myself thinking about how young children learn to speak and thinking if I could incorporate some of those things, like maybe even children's books that have the pictures and that kind of thing. I thought those would be fun additions to the app. And it would be fun maybe even if the app recommended a movie to watch with subtitles that had some of the same words in it. Anyway, when we're traveling and the announcer comes on and gives important information in English and then in Spanish, I find that I understand very little of what they are saying. Dino looks at me expectantly, like I'm going to be able to understand all of the words they just said, and I'll pick out like two words that they said that I understood. I have a long way to go before I can claim to understand Spanish. but it was still very fun. So I'm curious if you all have a favorite Duolingo character.
I don't think I have a favorite character. Oh, maybe I do, because what I'm about to say sounds like I do. The girl with the purple hair who's kind of like, you know what, you can finish, you can complete your streak today or not. I don't care. Her, I love her. I can't think of her name. I'll
She's a
look her
little
up.
sassy.
She
She's a
is
little
sassy.
sassy.
That's why I love her, I
She's
think.
so emo. On my Apple Watch, that's all it shows up is just her face. And I'm like, oh shit, she's yelling at me. I like the owl.
I like the bear.
Oh, the bear. I like the fact that one of the names that they use frequently is Sarah, and they talk about Sarah all the time.
There's one of the female characters that talks a lot faster than the other ones, and I always have to turtle her to be able to interpret what she's saying. But like the bear, he's typically slower when he talks.
It's a shame you can't snail button the people on the airplane. Giving the instructions too. Could you raise your hand and say, "Excuse me, slow down"?
Character names. Mer just sent the character names.
One of the names they use in the Hawaiian lessons a lot is the same name as my HR manager, which is really awkward when they're talking about like he likes to go to see this band and party and stuff like that. And I'm just like, no, he's the HR manager. He doesn't do that stuff. I'm sure of it.
That's funny. Oh, there you go. That's kind of cool. There's B.
So my favorite Duolingo character's name is Lily. Yeah, she's like, I don't care, whatever you want.
Yep.
Look up sarcastic in the dictionary, and it stands a good chance you'll find a picture of Lily. That's why I love her.
Known for her moody facial expressions and glaring indifference. I love how they all have personalities.
Yeah. So oh, sorry, you said you didn't get to speak very many lessons. I will tell you that was my favorite part. Well, Elsie also mentioned the matching game. That is actually my favorite, but speaking in Italian is a close second. I love doing it. And when I do it in the evening at Mark's house, I'll I don't know, we end up speaking Italian phrases back and forth to each other. It's mostly io fame, which means I'm hungry, or something about eating bread. Io mangio pane.
I think Cansato is tired, and that's what we talked about all the time. Cansato. Yep.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So Mer, well, I was going to say this was your idea. What made you want to challenge us to do this?
So at work, our leader of our department sends out an email every Monday, and it has a prompt. And it's always like, I think this week's, I didn't work today, so I'm not 100% certain, but I think the prompt today was what makes you happy, which is interesting because we just recorded a podcast about that. But it's also like last week, I think it was, what is something you want to learn this year? And I remember I sent you guys a message, and Elsie was like, is that like a real question? In theory. But anyway, one of these weekly prompts prompted some people at work to say that they're using Duolingo to learn a new language. And Brian, my friend Brian, was talking about it. He loves the gamification of it too. That's what got him kind of hooked on it. And he was able to have a conversation in Spanish with his daughter's Spanish teacher at a parent-teacher conference. He thought that was really cool. And so it just made me feel really excited about learning a new language. I love learning new things. So learning a new language seemed fun. And Mark and I want to visit Italy someday. I know that's a dangerous word, TC, but it is true. We will visit Italy someday. And I'd like to be able to speak some of the language while I'm there. So that's why I challenged us to do it. And that's why I chose Italian. Why did you guys choose the languages you chose? I mean, Jess, obviously, because you live in Hawaii. And Sarah, because it's the most commonly spoken language of the United States, foreign language.
Yeah. I live really close to Puerto Rico, and so there are a lot of Spanish-speaking people in my area on my island, and I took Spanish. The first time I ever learned Spanish was in 4th grade, and I remember "De qué color es su pelo," which means what color is your hair, and that's what stuck. It's a very important question.
And I can ask anyone that question whenever I want to.
Not donde está el baño?
No. Where's the bathroom?
I mean, that is a very important question.
That's what I remember from high school.
Juan come una manzana. I never knew that apples were manzanas, but boy, do I know that now.
I do too.
In
Italian, we learned a lot about apples as well. Mela.
Yeah. Do they eat any other fruit?
Strawberries. I got some strawberries.
Really?
Uh-huh.
No, we only got apples. Bananas.
Oh, and bananas?
I don't remember bananas. I only remember apples. A lot of apples.
Orange juice.
Manco.
Oh yeah, we did learn about wine. We learned about wine.
Yeah, I learned a lot of restaurant things like waiter and wine, obviously, dinner, lunch, breakfast. I have pages of notes for my Italian lessons, and they do chunk them into things like all of a sudden we're going to start talking about food, and like I don't know, I lost my train of thought for other things, but that's what happens. I feel like they like chunk it into different things. Like we talked about clothing one time in the present, and then we learned how to ask questions about food and animals and clothing, that sort of thing.
But it was like a whole section of the path. Like this whole section is about work and people you work with or something like that. And it was all about working in restaurants and working at the university and how many students or how many pens and books you needed or whether or not the library had computers. These are all things we talked about a lot on Duolingo.
For sure. So Elsie, I do think that the guidebooks are pretty easy to find. As you're going down the path, they're like right there next to the unit number.
Yeah, I never look at that. I'm like, this is the next thing I need to go to.
Oh, see, I read that every time, and I really think it helps. Yeah. So before I start the next unit, I will open up the guidebook and I'll learn about the phrases we're going to be talking about, and I'll learn about the masculine and feminine, and yeah, it's super helpful.
Yeah, I am only just now learning about the guidebooks because you're talking about it. I was just looking at the next button on my path, the next little dot.
Yep. It should be like, as you're in the dot, okay, here's the guidebook that you have to read, because otherwise you're not going to do it on your own.
Wow, I had no idea that existed. None.
Yeah, it's so helpful. I love it. I read it before I start every new section.
Did anybody
I
else
should point that out to Ben.
Notes? I have a note.
Oh, I did not.
Okay, so Mur took notes, Sarah took notes. Who else took notes?
Nope.
No.
That was often a conversation starter at work because because I'd stick my earbud in and I would be doing it, I would just say, I can't speak now, which was awesome because you get that question right automatically, right?
Yeah.
But I would have my notebook out and it's got Espanol written on the front. And so people kept asking me, oh, are you learning Spanish? No, I just have a notebook with Espanol on it. But anyway, and then that's when they would start talking about the other apps like Babbel. I think was the one that most people talked about.
Yeah, I've heard of Babbel.
But some of the other things, because I think that if you do look around, they do have a lot of other things that you can do on here. Like there's a podcast that you can listen to on here. And I did like some of those exercises where you're basically listening to a story and answering questions. I thought that was really helpful, some of those exercises.
Oh, I liked those exercises too.
And then some of the fun challenges where they're timing you on the matching. I would get pretty frenzied with that. And then you could get bamboozled into spending your gems to get more time. And I quickly learned to stop doing that because it costs about 10 million gems to extend your time 15 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like the amount of gems they charge you for things is not proportionate to the amount of gems they award you for things.
Yeah. Welcome to Duolingo, where the rules are made up and the points don't matter.
Dude, I will tell you, I am so glad that you asked if we wanted to hop in on a family plan, which, by the way, I still think I owe you money for that. So figure that out. But I would not be able to do this unless we were paying for it. because
Nope.
you
Mm-mm.
make a mistake. Like once you're out of lives, I think you only have like 3 chances, and then you make 3 mistakes, then you're done for 5 hours. And I don't think it gives you credit unless you actually complete a lesson.
Yeah.
I probably would have only finished like 4 lessons if we were not on the family plan.
Yeah, I honestly would have gotten frustrated with it pretty quickly, I think.
And the
Me
amount
too.
of ads they play, I would
Yeah.
have just been like, nope, I'm done. It's not worth it.
Yeah, so thanks, Elsie, and I want to pay you, and I do want to continue to use the app. So
Awesome.
Yes,
is
thank
anybody
you,
else
Elsie.
planning to continue to learn their language?
I'm only through like level 1 on all of mine except for like 4. I'm on level 2. So
You must not be on the new version because I can't skip around anymore. I have to just follow the path.
oh, I
So
don't
you
know.
must not be
Oh,
on the updated.
I can skip
Or it's a
around.
different language.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I can, oh, you can't see it,
I
but I
can't see
can
it.
skip around. Yeah, you can jump ahead.
I used to be able to.
It never even occurred to me to do it that way, though, Jess. That's fascinating to me that you're going through and doing lesson 1 in each unit.
Yeah, you'll have to send a screenshot of what that looks like for you. I think you have before, but I forget.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could also be because I'm on a Samsung and also I only had 2 checkpoints, and before each checkpoint there's only like between 8 and 10 sections. So I only have like so many sections. I think that there's just not as much for Hawaiian.
There's not as much to learn.
Well, or it's just not as common, so they haven't like built as many lessons for it.
Oh, that makes more sense than what I was
Because I mean,
thinking.
there's like only a few thousand people that speak Hawaiian fluently. So
That's interesting.
yeah, apparently they teach it in the schools, but a lot of people don't keep speaking it after that. There's actually an island off the coast of Kauai. It's called Ni'ihau, and they only speak Hawaiian there, and you are only allowed on the island if you are native Hawaiian.
Wow.
And I really want to go, but obviously I'm not. So
But
maybe
you
after
can't.
I speak it fluently, maybe they'll let me on.
I don't know if that's how that works. I don't think it changes your genetics.
Still think I can pass for Hawaiian with this pasty Irishness.
So it's interesting because Sarah and I are actually sitting together for this episode. We were just comparing our Duolingos, and like my unit 10
Wait, you're
is
comparing Duolingos. That sounds so dirty.
I'll show you mine. We're showing each other our Duolingos, and go to your unit 10. Yeah. So my
Show
unit
me your
10
unit.
My unit 10 says talk about schedules, and her unit 10 says talk about free time, describe activities.
What about your like the way your paths are set up? Do you both do they look the same? Like mine is a linear path that I follow, but it used to be more like what Jess is describing, I think.
Does your path
Yeah.
lean to the left?
Ours is like
Oh yeah,
this.
that's like that linear path.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
That's
guys
what
were
mine looks
showing
like.
that. That is not what mine looks like at all.
I think it's got to
Alright.
be because you're doing a different language.
Yeah, but they're both in Spanish.
But theirs look the same.
Yeah, but their unit 10s are different.
Yeah, the title of unit 10 is different, but it's set up the same. Jess's looks really different, she's saying.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was talking about you two, though.
I
It's weird
didn't
that yours are
know.
different.
Do that.
I'll have to pull mine up later.
Huh.
Did anybody sign up for more than one language at a time while doing this?
Hell no. Man, are you kidding me?
No.
It's taking so much brain power just to learn one foreign language.
Jack was doing Spanish, Arabic, and Gaelic. And if he did all 3 of them in a row and then try and speak English, he was sounding drunk. It was hilarious.
Is he still doing that?
Oh, yeah.
That's insane.
Right?
Yeah, that's intense.
Hmm. So did you find that it's much, much easier to read a different language than to speak it or hear it and understand it? I feel like I could read Spanish all day long, even words I don't know, I can mostly figure out. But speaking it or hearing it and understanding it, I'm far from being able to do either of those two things.
Yeah,
Yeah, reading it's easier.
I agree with you. I think reading it is much easier. But I also, that's one of the reasons why I've been writing things down because I figured it would help. But yeah, hearing it is something that I'm not very good at. I have to use the snail button, like Sarah pointed out.
It is totally a turtle, you guys.
Oh, that's what I meant by snail.
Yeah, it's a turtle. I know. When you
Yeah,
can talk about a turtle, why would you say snail? It doesn't even make sense to me.
right? Crazy people.
Clearly, I've
I'll just
lost my
say this
mind.
for my brother. He has a joke that he tells using a snail and or a turtle. It depends on his mood.
Oh, yeah, we heard about this one. Isn't it like the joke that never ends?
Yeah, kind of. It does end well sometimes. I guess it depends on his mood.
But
Yeah, we were
Tracy,
promised that in movie club, and then we never got it. It was
yeah,
like two
I
movie
know.
clubs ago.
don't you hate that joke, Tracy?
I've just heard it 1 million times.
Oh,
1 million times. He sent me all those, Bill and Sarah sent me all those turtle ornaments for my Christmas tree, and
hmm,
then one snail shell because of that joke.
that's hilarious.
Mhm.
We're gonna need Bill to come in and tell us that joke.
Do we though? Do we?
I think we
I'm
keep teasing it.
I'm pretty sure that if we invited him to be a guest on the show, he would pop right in.
He wouldn't be able to help himself.
I mean, what is language even good for if we can't use it to make each other laugh?
Oh my
Maybe he could
gosh.
tell the whole joke in Spanish.
Ooh. Was everybody happy with the language that they picked?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody wish they picked something else that was available on the app?
No, but did you, Elsie? You kind of sound like maybe you were. Were you?
I thought it was fine.
Oh, okay.
I
No,
don't
I,
know.
w- I would. I didn't second guess it at all. I think Italian's fun to learn.
I thought
Definitely
about
sounds
doing,
more romantic.
Well, isn't Spanish a romance language too, though? I think
Let's ask the Googles.
I
What
think
are the
it's
romance languages?
Spanish, Italian, French.
Not German.
Oh my gosh.
Not German. Okay, wait. Let's see if we can name all the romance languages. Don't Google them. Don't Google them, or if you're Googling them.
I didn't Google anything, but I think it's just those three. There might be more. I'm
What
gonna
do you
go with
think they
those
are?
three.
Say it.
I think that they are Spanish, Italian, and French.
Anybody else?
I think that's it.
Yeah, if I had to guess three, I'd be guessing those.
So here's what's funny. It says people also ask, what are 7 romance languages? What are the 12 romance languages? So I don't really know how many they are.
Yeah.
The major languages of the family include French, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, and Romanian.
Oh, okay. Portuguese and Romanian were the two I was missing. Now I'm gonna
Why
have
are
to
they
tuck
called
those away.
romance languages?
I don't know. That's a good question, but let me give you my educated guess. I think it's because of the very different masculine and feminine endings to words. That's my guess.
Anyone
My
else?
guess is because they sound sexy.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you what, saying anything in Italian sounds sexy. I love it.
How do you say I need to go to the bathroom in Italian?
I have not learned that yet.
That's like one of the most important things.
How do I not know how to find a bathroom in Italian yet?
It's so obvious.
I thought it had
Contrary
something to do with coming from being like originating from Roman.
Yes. Contrary to a popular belief that the Romance languages are so named because they are the languages of love, the word romance indicates the connection of these languages to Rome.
Nice.
Well, then why wouldn't they just call them Roman languages? The English language is stupid, man.
Because it's not sexy that way.
Well, that's true.
Interesting.
That is interesting. I love this podcast. I love that we get to learn new shit all the time.
It's pretty
English is
fun.
not a romance language.
Yeah, because we're not from Roman. We're not. Yeah, that's why.
It's considered a West Germanic
Germanic.
language.
Gross.
Hmm.
German is such
Sorry.
a harsh language.
Sorry, any of you Germans out there listening
No.
to our judgment
Siren Soapbox does not judge based on nationalities
or
or
language.
spoken.
I think it sounds awesome. German, like, you can tell me the nicest thing in the world and I'll just obey whatever you say. Like, okay. Because you
Yeah.
scare and intimidate me.
Well, you guys all opened up the clip that I sent, which was this guy saying all of these words, and he would say them in different languages. He'd say it in English, Spanish, Italian, something else, and then he'd say it in German. And it didn't matter what the word was. It could have been the nicest, sweetest word, but every time in German, it was and
Lots of
Yeah.
throat, like guttural noises.
sorry, did I spray on you?
A
No.
little bit. So another thing that I learned by doing this is I was talking about it to people, and I learned that someone that I work very closely with speaks Russian. And so I was like, say something Russian.
Say something Russian.
And she did. And I was like, well, that language really suits you. That was really interesting to learn. I had no idea.
Huh.
I
Is
did think
she-
about doing French because I learned French in college. Plus, I lived in Switzerland for a few years when I was in high school. So, in Geneva, which is the French-speaking part of Switzerland. So I spoke French pretty well, but I felt like that was cheating even more than Spanish, having only done 1 year of Spanish. But I thought that it'd be really cool to pick my French back up again.
I thought about doing
Just
French
follow
because
the
I have
notes.
forgotten so much of it. It'd take it 3 years in high school and then like 3 semesters worth in college. And so I was actually really good, but I don't remember a damn thing of it.
So I am currently in college because I'm 19. For all of you listening, you're wondering how old I am.
Plus a couple of years.
How old are your kids again, Mer?
That's right. We don't need to talk about that. But I still have to take I have to take one more elective, and it could be a foreign language. I'm thinking about taking Italian.
You totally should.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
not? So I'm
That'll really
cheating the
get you
other
ready.
way.
And also, we're lifelong learners here, as Kathy, Kinney, and Cindy Ratzlaff so eloquently pointed out. So
Yeah,
you can
we
go to
are.
college anytime.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Tracy's going to college too.
She
I'm
is.
taking classes.
You
I'm
are?
taking classes.
What classes are you taking?
All about international baccalaureate education. They're so good. They're really good classes. I love them. And I'm getting ready actually to work on my AMI Montessori administration certificate. So
It's exciting.
Oh,
I'm excited to do both at the same time so I can compare the two because I feel like they have a lot of parallels.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that you love your job so much now. Congratulations.
Thank you. All because I said yes and took a big chance and it was scary.
Yeah, I love that I have decided to be a lifelong learner.
Speaking of, is anybody gonna? Bleh, I can't talk. Anybody gonna pick another app to try?
No, I'm gonna stick with Duolingo,
Yeah,
if I can say it right. Duolingo. Yeah.
I've heard good things about Babbel.
Yeah, me too. I just like the name.
But do you have to pay for that one, Babel?
Probably.
I mean, it's probably this, if I had to guess, it's probably the same as Duolingo, where you get it free with ads and limited lives or whatever.
Only
Limited
there was
mistakes.
the internet.
Right? Only we could research this.
Babbel app.
Oh, there's not as many languages.
So I probably won't find
There's only
Tagalog on that one either.
14.
What did you say?
Oh.
There's only 14 languages on it?
Right, and I just want to clarify when Elsie was having trouble, what did you call it? Languaging? I think you said there were 23 different languages, but what you were referencing clearly said 43.
Did I say 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have 43 on Duolingo.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
43 on. So there's only 14: Danish, German, French, Indonesian, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, Norwegian, Dutch, Russian, Swedish, and Turkish.
So on Duolingo, they'll teach you Klingon and Valyrian, but they won't teach you Tagalog.
Oh, yeah, there's
It's so
like some 200 made up languages because of movies and stuff.
I was listening to a podcast last week. I'm sure it was Drinking the Kool-Aid because that's my new obsession. And they told the story of a set of twins who made up their own language. And apparently, like, you can't just like make up a language. There has to be there's some rules and things that you have to follow in order to call it an actual language. But anyway, this set of twins like made up their own language and they would speak that to each other, and nobody else in the world could understand what they were saying.
I've heard of that.
It went a little kookier than that, but
Which
that was just the beginning of the
seems
story.
crazy.
I had a student once who made up his own alphabet, and he would take notes in a journal using his own alphabet.
Was he very smart?
Very smart.
Yeah, that is a sophisticated mind that can do something like that, in my opinion.
Did you guys ever do Pig Latin when you were kids?
Yay.
Yeah.
I always forget how to do it. But you
Me too.
sound like you did it.
Ime
Okay,
ute.
Ixnay on the Ig Latin pay.
Don't talk about it.
Onte, octe, bout a.
Hey? Now
It
she
a.
switched to Canadian.
A? Don't you know? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry for any Canadians I just offended.
We have to apologize to the Canadians and the Germans of tonight, apparently.
French and Spanish, I thought, are both fairly easy to learn. They make sense. And when you're trying to make your sentences, it kind of makes sense. And doing plurals and singular and masculine and feminine, it all kind of makes sense. I did learn German in, I guess it was junior high when I was living in Switzerland. And that is one difficult language to learn. It just doesn't make sense. Words that plurals, you don't just put an S on it. Generally in most languages, you put an S on it and it's plural. Not in German. It was a very complicated language to learn. It sounds, and I don't know, I feel like those would be much more difficult.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but my mom had a friend. When we were younger, my mom had a friend, Kim, who spoke German. And she taught me and my little sister how to count to 10 in German. And that is, I'm sure I would pronounce all of the words wrong, but that's the only German I've ever known in my entire life, or heard, really.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's it.
And alle zusammen, because that was all together. And our teacher said that all the time, and we were supposed to say whatever he was saying. Alle zusammen, all together. And that's it. That's all I knew.
Alle zusammen.
That was the angriest I've ever heard, 1 through 10.
What I like about Spanish is that the letters are pronounced the same all the time, unlike English. So if you can refer back to a word in Spanish that you know how to pronounce that uses the same letters, the letters are always pronounced the same. So like the letter I is always E, like niña, or cinco. So most people know Cinco because of Cinco de Mayo, and that I is E, the E sound. And it's always the second to last syllable that gets the accent. And if not, they put an accent in the word. So you know that that's not the case. And it just makes me realize how many exceptions and how different everything is in English. It's crazy.
But even in the word cinco, the two C's are pronounced differently in Spanish.
Right. And so it has to do with if it's at the beginning of the word or not. And it's one of there aren't that many rules like that. For the most part, the words like two L's is always a Y sound. I don't know. It's mostly the same.
Yeah. There are some rules like that in Italian as well. I can't remember all of them, but obviously I have to refer back to my guidebook because it will tell you all about how to pronounce the words in your language that you're learning in the guidebook before each lesson.
I can't believe I never even realized that they were guidebooks.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to tell Ben about that because he actually did Duolingo and Hawaiian lessons, but he said he only did it for a couple of sections because he didn't like that there was nothing explaining to him like the rules.
Yeah.
And I mean, his dad was an English teacher, so I think that's why, like, in his brain, he's like, I need to know the rules and the past possessive and, you know, how to determine if it's feminine or masculine, you know, stuff like that. And so if I tell him that there's a guidebook, like,
Yeah.
look, babe, now you can treat it just like a class. You can
It's-
read the book and then take
It's very helpful. I love it.
It's so funny. I was thinking the whole time that not having that is much more natural. Like when a kid is 1, 2, 3 years old, you're not showing them a guidebook. They're learning it by listening, and parents naturally repeat things to the kids and show them things. It seemed much more natural to me. And
So
now I know there's a guidebook.
I think that there is some method of learning a foreign language just by listening to it, even as an adult. But I think that's kind of the theory behind listening to podcasts in the language that you're learning. You may not completely understand it when you start listening to it, but you'll pick things up.
I didn't even
Well, I
know
think-
that was in there. I missed everything.
Well, the podcast is in English. The podcast that's in Duolingo is in English, I
Oh.
think. I've only listened to a couple episodes, but they talk about the nuances of language. Like the very first episode is about names and what names mean in different parts of the world and that sort of thing. So it was a cool podcast. But I'm talking about okay, the podcast that I'm going to start listening to is called Italiano Automatico Podcast. And they are less than 20 minutes, 30 minutes, some of them. Some of them are only 12. And they're just short little conversations in Italian.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like conversational too. Like I think specifically Babbel has been, you know, their ads are talking about how they're teaching it conversationally. My brother has a friend from when he lived in China, and this friend was a teacher, but he apparently only ever learned like conversational Chinese. So there were times that he would like go into meetings and things like that, and he wouldn't have like the, you know, more textbook professional, I guess, educated Chinese. So I mean, he could definitely get by and he was fluent, but my brother said that there'd be some things, like some phrases that he would use that were almost too casual because of how he had learned it.
It would be
Which is probably fine if you're a tourist, but
yeah, it's probably like speaking in slang in a business meeting. Like that's what I'm picturing the difference to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like fine if you're a tourist and you're there like ordering or asking where the bathroom is, but you know, if you're
in a meeting, you're like, "Yo, bro, I gotta piss. Where's
Yeah,
where's the Whiz Palace?"
Exactly.
So Duolingo revealed the most 2022 phrase. Does anybody want to guess what that is?
Wait, in every language?
It just was December 6th on the Globe Newswire. Duolingo, the world's #1 online learning platform, revealed the most 2022 phrase. So in any language.
Do you want to Zoom?
I think that'd be 2020.
Cough into your elbow.
That's 2020 also.
I found it interesting that they taught that one in my Hawaiian lesson in the health section. They taught me how to say cough into your elbow.
Is it, are you interested in selling your home?
Do you have a guess, Sarah?
I don't know.
It is, please don't cancel my plans.
Really? I'm the opposite.
Preach.
I'm like, please cancel my plans so I can
Unless
stay
you
in
have
bed.
a trip to Ireland that's been canceled 5 times.
Oh, yeah.
Duolingo selected this phrase to reflect the tone and overall feeling of the year, which saw record flight cancellations, natural disasters in vacation spots, and soaring travel costs.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking of it more like cancel my plans for a night out, not cancel my week to St. Croix, because I will be fucking pissed if I can't get on a
Furious.
plane to St. Croix.
Right?
Yep.
When you said don't cancel my plan, I thought you meant like your plan for a certain app that you pay for. I pay for the family plan, or I pay for the whatever plan.
Duolingo's afraid I'm going to cancel the family plan now that this episode's over.
I love how we all interpreted that differently though. That was
I know,
really
it's
fun.
It's funny. Which is why we do the show, right?
Yes, it's awesome.
Well, Mur, I don't think you need to worry about your plans getting canceled because Duolingo predicts 2023 will be the year of the confident traveler.
Oh, well, hell yeah. I love that. Let's do it, folks.
All right.
So confident people are showing up an hour early from their flights.
No, they're showing up on time after they sat for an hour on the runway.
Okay, that's true. I didn't
But
want to have to
still.
explain all that, but yeah.
Still, that happened for those of you listening. That happened to TC this weekend. Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, I sat on the, I guess, tarmac. I don't know. I sat in the airplane parking lot for an hour. So we thought that we would be an hour late arriving, and we arrived 5 minutes late. So I was just amazed that we could lose an hour and still get there on time. And I don't understand, if it's possible to go that much faster, why don't we always go faster?
Yeah, I think it's a fuel cost issue
I do too.
or a time slip issue, which is my favorite explanation, actually.
Let's see if the Googles know.
So, just an interesting little side note. I have just nudged Tracy Cole to do her Duolingo today.
Aw,
Duolingo is really, really watching.
they really
It
are.
totally called her out.
I know.
Welcome, Tracy Cole, back.
I didn't
That was
mean to
awesome.
feel like we were giving you a hard time. I was excited for you to come back and learn Spanish after leaving for 30 days.
I mean,
I just thought it was funny that everyone knew. All of you
Oh,
were
yeah.
informed of my slackery ways.
Yeah.
it's all about accountability. That's why we had the chat and everything, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't just get a notification like it came down from the top of my phone. Like,
Came down from the heavens.
yeah, like
Siren TC has returned to
Multiple ways.
Duolingo.
multiple ways I was notified.
I do like it also tells me to like go give people high fives.
Me too. It's like, hey,
yeah, it
don't
totally
forget to
called
cheer
you
your
out.
friends on.
It probably meant it like cheer TC on so she doesn't quit, but it was like, damn, Doe. Taking
Do
the
you
shot.
have to accept the challenges?
What do you mean?
I don't.
You
No,
don't?
you don't have to.
But I mean, I feel
are
like I get thrown into them, and then Brian carried the weight for the entire team. Like, we had to do 90 some odd. It was a lot. It was a lot, and I did like 10%, and I feel really bad.
You were one of those group project people.
Well, I didn't sign up for that group project, in all fairness, so.
I've done group projects with Elsie, and trust me, she carries her weight.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
for
I'm
sure.
just saying. Let's talk about like when you're in school and you're like, you're the one doing all the work, and somebody else is like, all
Yeah.
right, I got the A for this, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the one that always did the work for everybody, and my 7th grade teacher realized that I did my buddy's work too because I accidentally spelled her name wrong. I didn't even realize I spelled her name wrong.
That's funny.
Speaking of language, and I got pulled aside like, she didn't do this work, did she? I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, she did. She wouldn't spell her name wrong. Damn it.
So, speaking of spelling names wrong, have you ever been texting with someone and you realize that like that person starts a text with your name, but they spell your name wrong? And if you look at your phone, when you text someone, their name's at the top.
Yeah, but that's only how you put it in your phone. So maybe she put it in her phone wrong. Like I don't get you. I don't get how you spell your name on your phone bill coming across. You know
You're
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, you're right. Good call. Good call.
I
My
have
phone has started auto-correcting because I went to text my friend Sarah with an H, and it auto-corrected to Sarah, and I was like, oh,
As
my
it
phone
should.
knows Sarah.
I don't think I've ever had anybody spell my name wrong.
We have a guest that's coming on the show, and her name's Ariel. I think this is in August. She's coming on the show, and I totally spelled her name Ariel, like Aerial Views, like my company.
That's
And
hilarious.
it was an accident, and then
Funny.
instant karma. We had a photo featured in Level and Lifestyle magazine this past week, and they spelled Ariel like how her name's supposed to be spelled.
That is funny.
I'm like, oh, I deserve that. I couldn't even get mad.
The universe correcting that one.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways that helps me remember people's names is to have them spell it. And what's interesting is whatever happens in my brain when I'm thinking of somebody's name, if two people have a name that is pronounced the same but spelled differently, I don't even think of it as the same name until someone points it out to me. Like Sean Sean and Sean Shawn. In my mind, those are two entirely different names. I don't even think of them as the same. So Sarah with an H versus Sarah without. But I did introduce Sarah without to a Sarah without just yesterday, and that was boggling my mind.
Because they were pronounced differently but spelled the same.
Yeah, and I think it's just because of, where they were born.
Yeah.
Has this happened to you? Because you started it with the text thing.
What, my name's being misspelled?
Yeah. Or are you getting
Yeah.
your name misspelled?
So somebody sent me a text and they started it out with my name, but they misspelled my name. That's what I was talking about.
In an email, it's even more so than with a text. I have literally signed this email that I just sent you with my name. That's probably how I spell my name.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so careful about that. I will literally copy and paste if somebody has a name that has, I don't know, that might be complicated or that I'm afraid I'm going to misspell. I'll copy and paste it from their signature line so that it's spelled correctly.
I mean, even a name like Lauren, or there are so many different ways to spell it. Amy, Rachel, there are so many different ways to spell all of those names. But Mary, there's really only one way to spell Mary, unless you're talking about Merry Christmas.
Or
Yeah, it's
like
only-
you do an I.
Have you ever seen a Mary with an I?
I
I've
have.
only seen.
I bet it exists.
It might. I've just never seen it.
I'm gonna Google
Yeah.
it while I tell you the story about this girl who goes by Meg. And for 20 years I knew this girl and called her Meg. And then one day I used what I thought was the long version of her name and I called her Megan. Her real name's Marguerite. I knew this girl for 20 years.
That's funny.
How embarrassing.
So my friend has a daughter named Josie, and Josie came home from school one day. She was little, like kindergarten maybe. She came home from school one day and said, Jenny's like, "How was your day?" And Josie says, "It was terrible. They made me learn this really long nickname and they made me write it down." And Jenny was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Josephine?" And Jenny was like, "That's your name." Her teachers were making her learn how to write and spell her name, but she thought her name was Josie, and she's like, "Why are they making me learn this nickname?"
Oh,
That's hilarious.
That's really cute.
My mother-in-law's first name is Margaret, and she just goes by Gwyn, which is her middle name. But we were talking once about how somebody called her Peg, and I'm just like, I don't get it. And it's like, apparently Peg is a nickname for Margaret, which to me just makes absolutely no sense at all.
Yeah, Peggy. A lot of Peggies are named Margaret.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't.
why?
In my brain, it does not make sense. Of course, it's the same way with Jack John. Like I don't
Bill
know.
William.
Dick and Richard.
Right.
Yeah. What's wrong with these people?
Names are weird.
My favorite was when I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods and I'd ask people, "Do you have your Dick's card?" And the little old ladies will be like, "Here's my Richard's card." They wouldn't say Dick's.
That's funny.
They're like, I'm not doing it.
Rewinding back to a previous topic from this episode, apparently there is a formula based on the cost index, which is like the percent, it's a comparison of fuel versus how much time you pay people to spend in the air. And so when fuel is lower, then it's more efficient to fly slower because you're spending more on fuel than you are on people. But when, did I say that right? When fuel is inexpensive, then it makes sense to fly faster because then your people cost might be higher than your fuel cost. So there literally is this moving index of cost efficiency for airplanes.
Wow.
That makes sense though, because you don't think about how many staff it takes to run a plane, but it actually is a good amount.
Yeah.
Plus the amount of money they may have lost with all the people that would have potentially missed a flight.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I know that Ben said once they basically put out these charts for airlines and how their percentage of on-time flights versus delayed flights, because they have to pay a certain amount for flights that are delayed. And so basically every airline buffers their time, their arrival time, so they can always say that they arrive early versus arriving late.
So
Wow.
who do they have to pay if they're delayed? Because they sure as hell don't pay the passenger that money.
Nope.
Capitalism is
probably like the FAA or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also think as far as being on time, when it comes to an on-time departure, they're looking at the time when the gate was closed and the plane backed away. So that's an on-time departure. But again,
Even if they
you might
didn't make
sit
it into
there
the
for an
air.
hour.
Even if they sat in the plane parking lot. That's what I'm calling it from now on, TC.
The tarmac. We're calling it the parking lot.
The plane parking lot.
I'm gonna call my the parking lot at Meyer or something the tarmac now. We're gonna switch it all around.
The shopping cart tarmac.
Hanging out here at the grocery store tarmac.
It looks like Babbel does offer free and paid lessons and free podcasts. Going back to Babbel.
Yeah.
Took me a long time to look that up.
Have very limited language choices.
Yeah, I wonder if we know anybody who has used both. So if you are listening and you have used both Duolingo and Babbel, let us know which one you like better.
Or there's Rosetta Stone.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that one's free.
No, I doubt it.
We used to use that one in schools, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. That school we both worked at.
That one school where we worked together.
We looked at that for a while. I don't remember if we ever used it, but I know that we did. I think we did. I don't know, but anyway.
We did because I worked for the IT team who helped get it set up. We definitely used it.
Setting that up. I don't know if I ever said thank you for setting that up, but thanks, Mer.
You're welcome. I mean, I'll say this. We set it up. Whether or not it got used, that's another story. Well, obviously, this is my new favorite episode, girls. We have a challenge for our listeners this week. We would love for you to learn a new language. Use Duolingo or Babbel, whatever works for you, and send us a message to sirensoapbox@gmail.com or use the hashtag Siren Soapbox in all the social medias to let us know how it's going. Language, it's hard. So thank you so much for playing along, Sirens, and for sharing your experience with us tonight. And thank you, fellow explorers, for listening to this episode. If you enjoy our show, please tell your friends about it and leave us a 5-star review, and I'll send you Siren Soapbox stickers. Don't forget, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website, sirensoapbox.com, and you can have our newest adventures delivered right to your inbox. And until next time, dive in, stay curious, and be happy. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Siren Soapbox, and a special thank you to C Strings for providing our music. Snag their latest EP from iTunes today. Follow the Sirens on all the social medias, and don't forget to tell your friends about us. Like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We'll catch you next time on another episode of Siren Soapbox.